Three, two, one, action. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome back to episode 34 of As Seen on Screen. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Gracie, and we're your source for entertainment news, reviews, interviews, and more.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify and YouTube. Well, thank you for tuning in to another week here on the show. We are glad to be back after a few weeks. We hope everyone had a great holiday season if you were celebrating, but it is time to jump back into the world of entertainment news. Honestly, it's a bit slow this week, the start of the new year, so a little slow on all fronts, but we have a few different segments planned for you today to keep you entertained. Let's just get right into the news. So, starting off, Eddie Redmayne will reprise the Day of the Jackal role in season 2.
I'm excited for this. I haven't watched it. It's on my to be watch list, which we talked about the other day is super long. Um, but it's been getting like stellar reviews, and he's gone through a lot of physical transformations for this role. So I'm excited. I have to watch season one, but I'm excited for season two.
Me too. I I like how I always laugh when we go through editing and I'm like we're both like we're so excited. Well, we haven't watched season 1, but it's gotten really good reviews. I feel like we're just excited that it's doing well.
Yeah, yeah. In other news, shocking news, really. Tell Me Lies, which I have various opinions about, has been renewed for season three at Hulu. And I think Nicole and I both laughed when we saw this.
I laugh because I haven't watched the show at all. And I hear such mixed things because people on TikTok are always like, this is a great show, it's so full of drama. Gracie, on the other hand, is the opposite when she tells me after she watches the episodes. She's like, you'll never guess what these people did this week. And then,
Yeah.
and then, and then I hear like good critics giving it kind of mixed reviews. I'm like, I don't know what to think about this show, but I feel like I need to just start it now to understand the lore.
I'm gonna be so honest, like it's not a bad show drama wise. Like 100% people on TikTok are right. There is so much drama, but like unnecessary. It's so dumb. Like Uh, when characters just like piss you off for the choices they make,
Yes.
it's constant every episode. Season two did leave off on a big cliffhanger, which kind of made like not a lot of sense to me, but that's the show. Um, so I'm excited to see what happens after that cliffhanger because it really solidified my hatred for the Stephen. He's one of the main characters.
Well, I just need to hop on this train because I need to either be a hater or a lover with you of this
Yeah,
show.
I feel like it'd be really fun if you were a lover of it, and I'd be like delusional.
We're both just opposite ends of
Yeah.
the. Well, moving into a bit of movie news here, Timothy Chalamet, his Christmas Day and like December time releases never disappoint. We have given Marty Supreme, the new upcoming film from A24, is set for a Christmas Day 2025 release date. So we're just under a year now from seeing Timothy Chalamet's ping pong epic biopic here of, of Marty. But yeah, I mean, hey, we have Little Women. Wonka was also released in December. We just had A Complete Unknown, which I'll talk about later, and I loved it. And now Marty Supreme. I think we need to give Timothy Chalamet a crown for December releases.
So true. I'm also just loving Timothy Chalamet becoming more comfortable with like his personality. Because like when artists are starting out, they're usually very like PR trained and have to follow a certain like role. This man does not care. He's like, I've made enough hit movies that I can be myself. And I've been absolutely loving the Complete Unknown press tour.
It's been so funny. The Much Music clip of him in that, I don't know if it's a record store, just a music, I don't know what store.
Nardwuar,
Yes. Good.
one icon. Moving on, casting announcement that I think we're both mixed on, but not for the casting. Dakota Johnson and Josh Hartnett have been cast in the Amazon adaptation of Verity, which is the hit Colleen Hoover novel. I'm honestly like not mad at this casting. Like it definitely fits the role, but it's not anything like whoa crazy. That being said, I am still very shocked that they're still going along with these Colleen Hoover adaptations with all the drama that's been going on with It Ends With Us, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni. It just seems like not the best move to be working on her projects, especially because of like the difficult topics they cover. But like it's also not her fault that this happened. So 50-50.
Yeah, wasn't Anne Hathaway also cast in this one too? Because there was
Yes,
three,
they're
right? Yeah.
joining alongside Anne Hathaway. I feel like Anne Hathaway and Dakota Johnson's roles should be swapped because I do not see Anne Hathaway as like a mistress.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see. I don't
We'll
know.
see. We'll see.
I was about to say she's back with Amazon, back doing after the idea of you. So, hey, you never know. Maybe she's channeling her inner like Well, also in theatrical release dates, Hurry Up Tomorrow got a release date of May 16th, 2025. This movie has really piqued my interest, and I'm very, very curious to finally get like advertisements and trailers for it because I'm just so curious to see how this cast works together and then also what like the ultimate premise of this movie is.
Gonna be so honest, this is either gonna be a hit or a miss because obviously we have The Idol, which was a miss, but like his music wise, 90% of the time hit.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool that they're basing a movie off of an album. Like that's pretty um neat concept that they're doing, especially with The Weeknd. He always has like very like theatrical elements, I would say, behind like his music videos for sure, and just like the stories with his albums and things like that.
Another release announcement, Wuthering Heights has an official release date for Valentine's Day 2026. So we do have to wait another year. But there's been controversy with this one. People are either loving the casting of Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie, or they absolutely hate it.
Oh,
So I'm excited to see what they come up with. Obviously, there's been adaptations of Wuthering Heights, and this
yeah.
is another one.
I think like most people I know are not extremely happy with this casting, specifically I think more Jacob Elordi, because I think I haven't read Wuthering Heights, but my friends who have read Wuthering Heights, they talk about how Jacob Elordi's character, I'm forgetting the name of that character, but he's described as a black man in the book. So I think a lot of the people who aren't exactly happy with this, I think some of that reason feeds into it because they're like, you could have chosen anyone, basically, type thing. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about last episode with like there's very
The
there's
It
a group of
Boys.
actors they pull from. So I mean we'll see. I have not read the book, so that's just what I'm hearing from other people that have read the book and why they're unhappy with this casting. But yeah, everyone has their own opinion, so we shall see. But moving on, Jared Leto has been cast as Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe movie at Amazon. Amazon's really just pulling all these movies and these big actors together for the movies recently, and I am rooting for them. I like it.
Yeah, and I'm bringing him up because Nicholas Galitzine is in this film, and he plays
Yeah, you
He-Man.
haven't mentioned.
Dude, he posted a picture of him because obviously He-Man is like a huge character, both like physically and with popularity. Um, I didn't even realize it was him. I honest to God didn't realize it was him until you sent it to me again. And I was like, oh my, like, dude has bulked up and he looks fantastic. He always looks fantastic. But like, he's really diving into this role. So I'm excited to see what comes out of it. But also, shout out to Amazon and him because The Idea of You was the number one most watched film in 2024 on Prime Video. So
I somehow knew that was gonna come back up. I was assuming you were gonna bring that up.
I have to bring it up.
Oh my goodness, I love that. I love that. As soon as I
Anyway,
saw this, I was like, Nicholas Galitzine is about to get mentioned this week.
for real, when Nicholas Galitzine has a film coming out, we are going to be sending a pitch of all the times I've mentioned him and say we need an interview.
Please, we're begging.
Anyway, moving away from that, another. very hot man, Jonathan Bailey. Jurassic World Rebirth has an official release date of July 2nd, 2025. If you don't know why I mentioned Jonathan Bailey, he is one of the leads in this film along with Scarlett Johansson. So I'm always sat for anything Jonathan Bailey does. Like he killed it in Wicked, killed it in Bridgerton, Fellow Travelers, like, and I love Jurassic World. So
See, the last two Jurassic Worlds did not do it for me, especially the most recent one that was
yeah,
released a few years ago. Bad. Like,
girl, yeah.
bad. I was so excited for it, and it was just not living up to its hype at all. So I'm a little skeptical of this one. I'm trying not to get too excited for it, but I do enjoy the Jurassic Park and the first Jurassic World movie they made with Chris Pratt
Hmm.
um, and Bryce Dallas Howard. So I'm excited to see maybe I feel like these two could bring it back. Like you're saying, Jonathan Bailey's great, Scarlett Johansson's great. I feel like they could maybe revive this franchise a little bit. Needs a bit of refreshing, although I'm kind of just on the fence that maybe it just needs to be left alone at this point. But
It
here
needs to
we
die with
are.
the dinosaurs.
So, so you know what? I'm being cautiously optimistic about this one. But moving in to another film, I'm actually also being cautiously optimistic on. Scream 7 had another casting update. McKenna Grace and Anna Camp are joining the cast. McKenna Grace has had the cutest reaction to this. She posted about it. Lots of people have been reposting it and posting about the news. I've seen a few interviews that she's done recently where they brought it up. So I love everything she does, all of her roles. So she's a great actress. And I'm just very curious to see what this new plot of Scream 7 is, with all the controversy around Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega not appearing for this film. Nev Campbell's coming back. Courtney Cox is coming back. A few movies ago, they killed off Madui, and that's still making me sad. But anyhow, we shall see what Scream 7 brings. Again, once we hit numbers like 7, I don't know. I think it might be time to wrap it up.
True.
Scream is my favorite movie ever. The original 1996 Scream is my all-time favorite movie. But that being said, I, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I love Neve Campbell and I'm excited to see that she's back for this, especially with all the controversy that was surrounding that with Scream 6 and her paying. So I'm glad we've cleared some of that up. But I just think by the time we hit 7, it might be time to just leave the franchise alone.
No more killers.
Like, I think Woodsboro and its surrounding areas are good now.
Yeah, they need a break. They need therapy.
They all need therapy.
But another fun announcement, Christopher Nolan's upcoming film that we've talked about quite a bit on here because it has killer casting, finally has some sort of plot reveal. It's based off of Homer's Odyssey, which I was not expecting from him, but expect the unexpected from Christopher Nolan.
I was laughing because I was seeing a bunch of stuff on Instagram and TikTok of people being like, looking at all the cast members and then being like, who is gonna play who? Because people are like,
Really?
I'm having trouble matching up different characters to the actual cast of this movie. But you know what? I think it's gonna be really cool.
This guy it could either go really good or really bad because I feel like when you're making something that people already know a lot about and like there's a solid fan base for that type of stuff, it's always 50-50 how it's going to be received. But I feel like it being Christopher Nolan is obviously a plus, but it could just be another megalopolis where it has this huge cast and then people end up really disliking it.
I think things like what you were saying, the things that already exist and have like huge like teachings about and fans of and follow like all that kind of stuff, there's always going to be, I mean, let's face it, there's always going to be negative reviews,
Oh,
period, with
100%.
art is subjective. But I think maybe it'll face a little bit of criticism from people, but I don't know. Like you said, it's Christopher Nolan, and Christopher Nolan also has a huge, huge fan base of his own. So we shall see as it gets closer. I mean, we're still very, very, very far off from getting this movie. I think it's supposed to be next year, 2026, but we shall see. But moving into our last piece of news for today, Saturday Night Live announced their 50th anniversary special will take place on February 16th, 2025. It is a 3 hour long special, so that is a lot of comedy. People have been speculating online just based off of past anniversary specials of what might be included. SNL released a little bit of a teaser kind of thing for it, so. I'm sure they're very hard at work. I can't imagine having to put like so much pressure on these types of shows and the writers and set designers and everything. I just think of Saturday Night Movie and like thinking about the first one and everything that went into it. And I think about every week what they have to go through to put these episodes on, now let alone a 3 hour special for 50th anniversary. That is a lot. But
Mhm.
I'm very, very excited to see because honestly, SNL always delivers. So I'm sure they'll do a spectacular job as per usual. We are so excited to announce that we have partnered with the Tarot Group and Universal Pictures Canada to give you a chance to win one of three digital copies of the hit big screen musical film Wicked.
In order to enter a contest for a chance to win a digital copy of the film, all you have to do is head over to our Instagram page and click on our pinned post. You must be following our account, like the post, and comment your favorite song in the film and also tag a friend.
For an extra entry, you can share the contest post to your Instagram story. The contest is now open and will close on Thursday, January 9th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gracie and I will be sharing our full reviews and thoughts of the film during our podcast episode next week on January 9th.
If you haven't seen Wicked yet, you can rent or buy the digital copy of the film beginning today, December 31st, and on 4K, UHD, Blu-ray, and DVD, February 4th, 2025. Thank you again to the Tarot Group and Universal Pictures Canada for this amazing opportunity.
Don't wait to enter, and we'll see you all in Oz. Okay, well, that is all the news we have for today. We thought it would be fun to recap as a little segment today our top 10 movies of 2024. I know we're a few days off the new year here. Apologize. But we both have our top 10 from 2024 lined up.
My top 10 movies of 2024. Number one, obviously, Wicked. I walked into this one not having like huge expectations, but I absolutely fell in love with it. And I've seen it twice now and I love it. Number two, Piece by Piece. Yes, the Pharrell Williams Lego movie. It's once again walked into it expecting like bare minimum because it's a Lego documentary and was thrown totally for a wild ride. And I was crying, and Nicole can vouch. Um,
It's true, she
but
was.
it's such a great movie. So beautiful. Number three, we saw together, but The Fall Guy. I just feel like watching it for the first time, you and I knew it was going to be like a hit.
Except we can talk about this, but I definitely think it flopped at the box office based on what they
Oh,
wanted
a
to do.
100%. But once again, this is my
Which
opinion. Mm.
is, oh no, it's on my list too. But I am so sad about that still. But anyways,
They
please
did The
continue.
Fall Guy dirty.
They did. Not enough people enjoyed, and it had so much summer blockbuster potential.
For
But anyway,
real. Number four, to no one's surprise, The Idea of You. I'm obsessed with this film, obsessed with the music. I'm thoroughly shocked that August Moon was not on my Spotify Wrapped, but here we are. Yeah, obsessed with this film. I think it's so great. Love it. Number five, Deadpool Wolverine. This was the one that I was long awaiting this summer, and it did not disappoint. It was hilarious. It was heartwarming. It was Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. Like, I don't know what else to say. Number six, I'm honestly surprised this one made the list, but like when I thought back to it, I was like, damn, this was a really good movie. And I really enjoyed it. Haven't seen it again since, but I really want to. We Live in Time. I wasn't
yes,
sure how to feel about it when I saw it
yes.
at TIFF because I was just really overwhelmed and sleep deprived, but such a good film. Number seven, I don't think this has actually come out yet, but I'm putting it on my list because I saw it in 2024. The Life of Chuck.
Yes, I think it
Killer
counts.
movie. I say it counts because we saw it in 2024. It's not coming out until 2025, but we're just ahead of the game. It's a fantastic movie.
Mhm.
Mike Flanagan has done it again.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so excited for more people to see this. I think a lot of people will like it. It's very, very different and unique. I really enjoyed it, especially since we went into it not really knowing much of what it was going to be. It was a very pleasant surprise too.
Number eight, throwing it back. Arcadian.
Yeah,
Such a good movie. It had a release, but it didn't do well.
yeah.
And that makes me so upset.
It was a great theater movie, and it only really went straight to streaming, I believe. It didn't really, especially in Canada, for sure. It didn't really
Yeah.
get theatrical release at all. The States may have been a little different. That's another film I feel like just not enough people knew about either.
You know what? Give it a few years and these movies will be like popping off on TikTok or something. Number nine, I'll say it's a hot take. I'm not gonna lie. But Mean Girls, the musical, I started my year off with it, and my Spotify rap can vouch that it started out with me listening to the soundtrack a lot in January and February and March. So I love this movie. I also think I'm obsessed with Renee Rapp. She gives such a killer performance. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a vibe. And then number 10, ending it off, Amelia Perez. I love this film. Didn't expect to love it because it was so like, I don't want to say overhyped, but there was a lot of excitement around it. So I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was amazing. The cast was stellar, the music was phenomenal, and just all the intricacy that went into it was amazing. So that is my top 10. How about you, Nicole?
I love it. I really had a hard time putting this list together because I was telling Grace the other day. So I have a movie stub book that I keep all my movie stubs in. And I was doing my tally for 2024 and I saw over 90 movies in the theater this year. So and a few of those are repeats, yes, but I was struggling to put this list together. So I have a handful of honorable mentions at the end because I love them also and I wanted to mention them, but they just didn't make my top 10. Also want to preface that my first three are like a hard top three. Four to 10, I was also struggling to put in order because they are very, very different from each other. And so I was having trouble like ultimately ranking them on what I loved. This is so 4 to 10, keep in mind, is like a vague order. It probably will change very frequently, but my top three are my top three. So, without a doubt in my mind, We Live in Time, my very favorite film of this year. I've seen it 3 or 4 times already. I want to watch it again as soon as possible. It is so good. As everyone has said, Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield are magic in this film together. I love them. Their chemistry is just off the charts. I love how John Crowley decided to I love how John Crowley decided to tell the story in a non-linear order. It's not chronological by any means, and I really think that was a very smart decision for this storytelling and the story that he was trying to convey to the audience. So I was just very moved by it. I cried for sure. Is it predictable? Yes, but I feel like that's the point. You know what's going to happen to these two, and you're seeing what happens in their life and where they started, where they went, what happened in their life, the struggles. So I just thought it was very well done and I was very moved by it. So I definitely suggest checking out We Live in Time if you haven't already. But second on my list, Gracie and I are gonna have a few repeats on here, is The Fall Guy. I loved The Fall Guy. It was so, so good. The soundtrack in this movie is killer. That was one of the first things Gracie and I talked about when we got out of this movie. We couldn't stop talking about how great the choices for the soundtrack were. Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling were amazing in this film. You had action, you had romance, you had comedy, stunts. I mean, it had everything that a summer blockbuster needs, in my opinion. Honestly, also, I think it was released the end of May or the beginning of May, sorry, the beginning of May. But do you know originally it was supposed to be released in like February? I remember when we got the South by Southwest announcements, I was like, why is this being shown in March if it comes out in February? And then I realized it came out in May now. So I'm happy in their decision to move it up because I think it was definitely better suited for summer. I even argue it could have been released a little later in the summer, but that's not necessarily their decision. So that was a great one. Also, you should check out The Fall Guy. It is on Prime Video in Canada. Long Legs is my third favorite of the year. This movie was overhyped, and I get that. I was also part of that. I raved about it, and I think people's expectations of it grew too much. But I still stand by the fact that I think this was an incredible horror film. This was like definitely more obviously on the psychological side of horror, like psychological horror thriller. And those are some of my favorites. So that's why I loved it so much. It wasn't like overthrown by gore. It wasn't overthrown by too many jump scares. You were scared, at least I was scared. I was scared by the aspect that like that anxiety that you didn't know when Nicolas Cage's character was going to appear. You kind of felt his presence throughout the entire film, and Micah Monroe did just such a great job portraying the FBI or the FBI agent in this film. So, and Nicolas Cage's character is freaky to look at, and I loved how they didn't show what his character was going to look like through any of the promo and press. He didn't do any press for this film. I thought that was a great decision on their part. So I was just very impressed by this film, and I get that a lot of people didn't necessarily end up loving it or being scared by it, but I still stand by the fact that I thought it was an amazing film. Okay, number four is Mild Ass. I love Maisie Stella. This story was just so sweet and so cute. She's our Ontario girl. They're all, not all, but a lot of the cast and crew in here is Canadian. So I just love seeing such a Canadian film. It was also filmed up in Muskoka. I just loved seeing it do so well. Perry Nemiroff from Collider named it her second favorite film of the year, I believe. So I just love how much positive press this film has gotten. It's so well deserved. Immaculate. This I feel like is gonna be a hot take because Immaculate wasn't necessarily super well received when it came out in theaters. Uh, I also this is very different than Long Legs. This is very much filled with gore and jump scares, but I was very impressed by Sydney Sweeney's performance in this film. I thought she did a great job, especially if you've seen it, the last few minutes of it, the last scenes is very common to hear that everyone liked that part and thought she did an amazing job. I think she did an incredible job throughout the entire film, and I would love to see her work in the horror genre more going into the future. But I was just impressed by this film overall. I mean, it's not like a super new concept or anything. We've had horror movies with this concept before. Also, it was released side on side with The First Omen, which I don't think necessarily helped because The First Omen was a very similar story to Immaculate, almost identical in some ways.
Mm.
And a lot of people liked The First Omen better. So I definitely think that also fed into it a little bit. Nonetheless, I loved Immaculate. You should watch Immaculate. Next up, I'm gonna put A Complete Unknown, which is the new Timothy Chalamet biopic of Bob Dylan. I was very impressed by this film. I went in not knowing much about Bob Dylan at all. I knew a bit of his music, and that's about it. I think that the storyline that they chose to focus in on in Bob's life specifically was a good choice. There were some parts where it kind of like slowed to a lull, but I think that was okay. That didn't really overthrow my enjoyment of the movie overall. I've found it very interesting to see his relationship with Elle Fanning's character. I can't remember her name at this very second. And then Joan in the film as well. I just think it was very interesting to see the dynamic between the two of those as someone who didn't know much about the singer. And just how he's so talented as a songwriter, so undeniably talented. And it was very interesting to see the aspect that they showed of his rise to fame and how I got the impression that he didn't like how he couldn't even go anywhere anymore, right? Like we see in the film how he couldn't do anything or go anywhere without everyone like piling over him and saying, "This is Bob Dylan, let's go see him," like all that kind of stuff. I think that would definitely be the hardest part about being a celebrity of any kind, is that you lose that sense of privacy and being able to do those things independently and go anywhere kind of idea. So that was all very interesting that they included in this biopic. So I enjoyed it very much. But next up, Saturday Night. I loved Saturday Night. Another film I feel like kind of flopped for sure. But you know what? I thought it was everything that it was marketed to be. It was completely what I was expecting it to be. The anxiety and the chaos of being in that writer's room and just in that whole studio, I can't even imagine. So I thought that was just a very fun movie. Twisters is on here. Gracie's gonna give me a look. Yeah, Gracie's like, no. But I
Glenn Powell in a
Twisters.
white t-shirt in the rain with his cowboy hat.
Listen, Twisters is also what I wanted it to be. It was just a fun summer blockbuster. Also had a killer soundtrack. I thought the storyline was fun. I was happy with the performances in this film, so that is why it's making it on my list. Then I also have Deadpool and Wolverine for honestly, a big factor is that I was just impressed by how many jokes they managed to get into this film and okayed by Disney. So you know what, they get a big A plus on that from me as well. But obviously I just enjoyed this movie overall. And last on my list, I have Nosferatu. I was not expecting to be as impressed by this film as I was, and I was very blown away by it, specifically Lily Rose Depp. She was just incredible in this film, and I really hope she gets some more recognition, not more. I hope she gets recognition, period, in award season this year. She didn't get any noms for Golden Globes, but I think that has to do with the fact that it wasn't released yet. But maybe not. No, because a complete unknown was. So I'm not sure. But I think award season doesn't necessarily always recognize horror. I think a lot of the time they shut out horror. So I think she should get some more recognition because she just was stellar in this film. So, yes. But my shoutouts, like I mentioned, that didn't make my top 10 that I still also loved this year are Anora, Hitman, Arcadian, like Gracie said, I loved Arcadian. Civil War, I was also a big fan of. Lisa Frankenstein was fun, as well as Inside Out 2. And then Love Lies Bleeding and The Assessment. Oh, and Smile too. And Smile too. That's my top 10-ish. Well, I think it's that time of the week, Gracie. What do we think? What is your watch of the week?
My watch of the week is a series. I started Squid Game season 2. I'm on the third episode now, and y'all, it's crazy. It's basic. I was very skeptical because, like, I didn't know how they were gonna make a season 2 for the sole fact, like, if you just repeat the same thing for a second season, it's kind of boring. But they made it new, they made it fresh. There's lots of drama. People are already dead in the first episode.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it's crazy, but I think it kind of like came out of nowhere originally. Like they didn't expect it to be big, and then I think COVID played a big part in it blowing up the way it did. So to see them get a second season when they weren't sure about it at first is so cool. And you can tell that the cast, this is really just a passion project for them. Um, yeah, I'm excited to see how season 2 ends. And obviously, I believe they've been renewed for season 3 already. So we'll see.
love that. Love it.
What was yours, Nicole?
Mine, I finally had the chance to watch Juror Number Two, directed by Clint Eastwood, that came out in November last year, and I was very impressed by it. I think this is a very well-written courtroom drama. I will preface by saying, I won't say any spoilers, but I feel like the ending will be controversial. It is controversial because I feel like I watched it with my parents and they weren't a big fan of the ending, whereas I loved the ending. I thought it was a very smart ending. I won't say what happens or anything, but I think it was just so well written, and this film really zeroes in on the problems with like the justice system, specifically, obviously, in the United States, and really weighs what it means to find justice or to seek justice for somebody. So this film focuses in on a trial. Nicholas Hoult is the star. He is put on a jury. He's put on jury duty, and he is selected as one of the members for a murder trial. And the man who's being accused is the boyfriend of the victim, the girl that was murdered. Her boyfriend is on trial for her death. And it was very interesting. Like I don't want to, I'm trying not to say anything to spoil it because you figure out things very quickly in the beginning. But for sure, the writing is just so brilliant. And the fact that it showcases that justice isn't so black and white, and it's very different how people can perceive what justice is. And between all these jury members, you see what their different definitions of justice may be and how they are justifying to themselves why they think this man should either be guilty or not guilty, and what they believe should be happening and what isn't happening and what is happening right and what they're missing. And so it's definitely slower. Like it's not slower paced, but it's not like an action film. It's a very pure courtroom drama film. So that I feel like has a very specific audience in itself. And I just really enjoyed it personally. I thought Nicholas Hoult did great, Toni Collette did great. I love seeing oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Zoe Deutsch. I love seeing her on screen. I haven't seen her in something new in a little bit. So I thought she was a fun little supporting cast as well in this. So it was just very intricate, this story too. There was like every scene it felt like it had importance to the movie, and you were kind of wondering like where's this going to tie back into? What is this really hinting at? It really has you thinking. So this isn't really a film that you can just put on in the background and kind of half pay attention to. This is one you kind of got to pay attention to the whole time. So I was impressed by it. You can see Juror number two on Crave, at least in Canada. You can see it on Crave.
Well, what was your song of the week, Nicole?
You know what? I've been getting back into my country playlist now that Christmas is over. It's
I'm
it's been
shocked.
on it's been on repeat. Something I added back before the Christmas music kind of started that I was rediscovering a little bit of some old music that I grew up more with. But I've been listening to Ocean by Lady A lot. This is not a new song at all. This is an older release for sure. But I've just been trying to get back into some of the music I grew up with a little bit more and kind of listening more to that, and that's been one of the songs that stood out. So definitely on repeat a little bit on my phone this week. But what about you? What is your song of the week?
Mine is also not a new release, but it's just been on repeat, along with this whole album. But Dancing Through Life from the Wicked soundtrack is a banger. And I usually listen to that when I'm driving to work. So that's why it's been on repeat so much.
Perfect. I love that. Good choice. Well, moving into the last segment of the show this week, we have our upcoming releases. I will preface by saying it is quite a short list this week. We have zero theatrical releases for us. There are many re-releases they're actually putting into the theater. I didn't write any of them down because there's quite a few of them. But Seven is getting a re-release in IMAX, and then a week later, as well as just regular format. There's also The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Benjamin Button. There's quite a few. So if you are into seeing some of those movies that you've maybe never got a chance to see in the theaters when they came out, definitely check your local Cineplex. That's where I saw them for re-releases there coming up in the next few weeks. But kicking us off for releases here, The Rig Season 2 is hitting Prime Video today on January 2nd.
On January 3rd, we have Love is Blind Germany, which is coming to Netflix.
Apparently, we need one for every city across the globe.
There's new drama everywhere, so they want to keep it going.
Hey, I can't blame them. If they have an audience, they have an audience. Also, over on Prime Video tomorrow on January 3rd, we have NHL Coast to Coast.
And lastly, we meant it when we said shortlist. Selling the City is coming out January 3rd on Netflix. This is a spin-off of Selling Sunset, and it takes place in New York City.
Again, I have to say, I'm not sure why we need one for every city and every spot, but hey, if they have an audience, go for them.
For real, might as well.
I also just wanted to mention, not an upcoming release, but the Golden Globes are this Sunday, January 5th on CBC and Paramount Plus. So you can tune into them. I'm very, very intrigued. There are quite a few awards. I'm very interested in seeing who takes it home. And of course, this award show is always a very big hint at who's going to get an Oscar nominations specifically for Best Actor and Actress, because the Golden Globes does it differently and it's split into two categories. Obviously, Oscars, we have one. So I'm always very intrigued to see what this means maybe for the next few months here with award season. Well, that is all we have for today. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of As Seen on Screen. I'm Nicole.
I'm Gracie, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify or YouTube.
We'll be back same time next week. So we'll see you then. Bye.